I still remember the day I stumbled upon an ancient tome hidden deep within the dusty recesses of a used bookstore. It was as if fate had guided my fingers to the worn leather binding, and I felt an inexplicable pull to open its creaky pages. The words within were written in a language I couldn't understand, yet the images depicted etched into the margins seemed to sear themselves into my mind. A crude drawing of a symbol, surrounded by cryptic symbols that resembled alchemical notation, stared back at me with an otherworldly intensity. I felt a shiver run down my spine as I realized that this was no ordinary book. As I delved deeper into the text, the words began to shift and rearrange themselves, spelling out a single phrase in bold, crimson letters. Veritas odium paret, truth begets hatred. Little did I know, these words would set me on a path from which there was no return. The store owner, an eccentric old man with sunken eyes and a penchant for esoteric knowledge, noticed my fascination with the tome. He leaned in close, his voice barely above a whisper. "You're not like other people, are you?" I felt a surge of unease as he continued. "There's something within that book that calls to you, something that only reveals itself to those who dare to confront it." I brushed it off as mere paranoia, but the seed had been planted. The store owner handed me a small, ornate box adorned with more of those same symbols. "A gift," he said with a knowing smile, before vanishing into thin air. I left the store feeling both exhilarated and unnerved. The words from the book lingered in my mind like a mantra, echoing through every waking moment. I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being watched, that unseen eyes were monitoring my every move. As night began to fall, I felt an inexplicable urge to return to the store, to unlock the secrets hidden within those ancient pages. As I stood before the store owner's vanishing point, a shiver ran down my spine. I felt an overwhelming urge to return to the store, to unlock the secrets hidden within those ancient pages. The words from the book continued to echo in my mind like a mantra, echoing through every waking moment. I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being watched, that unseen eyes were monitoring my every move. As night began to fall, I felt an inexplicable urge to return to the store, to unlock the secrets hidden within those ancient pages. The store owner's parting words still lingered in my mind. The keys to unlocking the truth lie within the hermetic texts. I had never heard of such a thing, but something about his words resonated deep within me. I decided then and there that I would spend every waking moment studying these mysterious texts. The store owner's gift, the small, ornate box, sat atop my desk, a constant reminder of the journey that lay ahead. As I delved deeper into the world of hermeticism, the lines between reality and madness began to blur. I spent hours poring over ancient tomes, devouring texts on alchemy, astrology, and the occult. The words of Hermes Trismegistus echoed through my mind like a siren's call. As above, so below. I began to see patterns in the world around me, hidden symbols and codes that only revealed themselves under the light of the full moon. My obsession grew with each passing day, consuming every waking moment. The world outside receded, and all that remained was the pursuit of knowledge. But as I delved deeper into the mysteries of the universe, I began to realize that I was not alone in my quest. I had been studying the Hermetic texts for weeks, poring over ancient rituals and incantations. The store owner's gift, the small, ornate box, sat atop my desk, a constant reminder of the journey that lay ahead. I was determined to unlock the secrets hidden within its pages. One night, as the full moon hung low in the sky, I gathered the necessary materials: rare herbs, silver wire, and a vial of pure water. The air was heavy with anticipation as I began to recite the incantation, my voice echoing through the empty halls of my apartment. Jathik, hear my call. Ancient One, arise from the depths. The words seemed to take on a life of their own, swirling around me like a maelstrom of darkness. I could feel the weight of the world bearing down upon me, as if the very fabric of reality was straining to contain the power that I unleashed. And then, in an instant, everything went white. When my vision cleared, I found myself standing before a portal where none had been before. The air was thick with an otherworldly energy, and I could feel the presence of something ancient and malevolent lurking just beyond the threshold. "Jathik," I whispered, my voice barely audible over the pounding of my heart. "I call upon you." In response, the portal began to pulse with a sickly green light, as if the very essence of the universe was being drawn towards it. And then, in a flash of insight, I knew that I had been summoned. As I stood before the portal, I felt an overwhelming sense of trepidation. The air was thick with an otherworldly energy, and I could feel the presence of something ancient and malevolent lurking just beyond the threshold. Suddenly, a figure emerged from the shadows, its eyes glowing with an eerie green light. "You have been chosen," it hissed, its voice like a rusty gate scraping against concrete. "Your mind is ready to be reshaped." The figure began to speak in a language I didn't understand, but somehow I knew exactly what it was saying. It was a litany of forbidden knowledge, a list of secrets that no human should ever know. As the words washed over me, I felt my grip on reality begin to slip. The world around me began to distort and writhe like a living thing in agony. And then, suddenly, the figure vanished. But its message remained, etched into the very fabric of the portal. I stumbled backwards, my eyes fixed upon the glowing symbol that now adorned the wall behind me. It was a twisted amalgamation of letters and symbols, a grotesque parody of language that seemed to mock me with its very existence. "Jathik's gift," it read, in letters that burned with an inner fire. I knew then that I had made a terrible mistake. The portal had left me with a cursed message, a constant reminder of the horrors that lurked beyond the veil of sanity. And as I gazed upon the graffiti, I felt my mind begin to unravel, thread by thread. I tried to ignore the message, but it lingered in my mind like a festering wound. The symbol seemed to sear itself into my brain, and I could feel its presence coursing through my veins. As the days passed, I became increasingly withdrawn, unable to shake the feeling that something was watching me from the shadows. And then, one night, I received a package with no return address. Inside, I found a small, antique cookbook bound in human skin. The title page read, "The Art of Feasting," in letters that seemed to be written in my own blood. As I flipped through the pages, I discovered that it was filled with recipes for dishes that seemed to defy all logic and reason. And then, I came across a passage that made my blood run cold. It described a ritual in which the participant would consume human flesh, savoring the flavors and textures of their own brethren. I knew then that I had been chosen for this rite, summoned by some dark and malevolent force to participate in this twisted feast. The pages seemed to blur together as I read on, my mind reeling with horror and fascination. And when I finally emerged from my trance-like state, I was left with a terrible realization. I had eaten the pages of the book. The taste was like nothing I had ever experienced before, rich, savory, and utterly revolting. I knew then that I was forever changed, bound to this dark and twisted path by forces beyond my control. As I sat in the darkness, surrounded by the endless pages of the cookbook, I felt a creeping sense of dread. The air seemed to vibrate with an otherworldly energy, and I could feel the weight of the cosmos pressing down upon me. And then, without warning, my vision began to blur and distort. Colors swirled around me like a maelstrom, and I felt myself being pulled through a vortex of madness and terror. I saw visions of impossible geometries, of cities that defied gravity and logic. I saw the faces of ancient deities, their eyes burning with an eternal fire of knowledge and power. And at the center of it all, I saw Yog-Sothoth, the great old one who held the secrets of the universe in his twisted, eldritch mind. He spoke to me in a voice that was both familiar and yet utterly alien, his words dripping with an honey-like sweetness that was both seductive and repellent. "You have been chosen," he said, "to bear witness to the mysteries of the cosmos." And as I listened, entranced, I felt my mind begin to expand and contract, like a balloon inflating and deflating in a mad spiral of madness. I saw the threads of reality unraveling before me, revealing hidden patterns and connections that lay beyond the veil of sanity. And when the vision finally faded, I was left with a terrible clarity. I knew that I had been forever changed by my encounter with Yog-Sothoth. The world around me seemed different, somehow, as if the very fabric of reality had been warped and twisted by my brief glimpse into the abyss. As I walked through the city streets, I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being watched. Every stranger seemed to be lurking in the shadows, waiting for me to make a wrong move. And then I saw them, a group of people who seemed to blend into the crowd with an uncanny ease. They were dressed in black, their faces obscured by hoods and masks. But it was their eyes that really caught my attention. They seemed to gleam with an otherworldly intensity, as if they were privy to some secret knowledge that I could never hope to comprehend. I followed them from a distance, curious about what they might be up to. They led me on a wild goose chase through the city, dodging and weaving through crowded streets and alleys. And then suddenly, we arrived at an abandoned warehouse on the outskirts of town. The group began to file into the building, their movements slow and deliberate. I hesitated for a moment, wondering if I should follow them in. But my curiosity got the better of me, and I slipped inside, trying to blend in with the shadows. As I watched from the darkness, the cultists gathered around a makeshift altar. They were surrounded by candles and strange artifacts, their eyes gleaming with an otherworldly energy. And at the center of it all, they raised their hands to the sky, chanting in unison. I recognized the words as some kind of dark ritual, one that I had stumbled upon in my research into the occult. But what really caught my attention was the figure standing at the edge of the circle, a tall, imposing man with eyes that seemed to burn with an inner fire. He was the leader of the cult, and he seemed to be pulling the strings from behind the scenes. I knew then that I had stumbled into something much bigger than myself. The cult was infiltrating every level of society, manipulating events from the shadows. And I had just become a part of their game. The story, I've been feeling it for weeks now, this creeping sense of dread that's always lurking just beneath the surface. At first, I thought it was just the usual stress of everyday life, but lately, it started to feel like something more. Like a weight is pressing down on me, making it hard to breathe. I've tried to shake it off, to focus on the things that bring me joy, my friends, my music, my art. But nothing seems to be working. The more I try to push it away, the more it seems to seep into every aspect of my life. I wake up in the middle of the night, drenched in sweat, with the feeling of being watched staring me right in the face. I see things out of the corner of my eye movement, shadowy figures lurking just beyond the edge of perception. I know it's not real, but it feels so real. Like my grip on reality is slowly slipping away from me. I try to talk to people about it, but they just think I'm stressed or overwhelmed. They don't understand what I'm going through, so I keep it all bottled up inside, trying to deal with it on my own. But the more I try to push it down, the harder it feels like it's rising up to consume me. I saw something today that really freaked me out. I was walking home from work when I saw a figure standing on the corner of the street. It was tall and imposing, with eyes that seemed to bore into my soul. I tried to brush it off as a hallucination, but the image stuck with me long after I got home. Now I'm starting to wonder if it was real or just my own paranoia getting the better of me. I don't know what's going on anymore. I feel like I'm living in a dream world where nothing makes sense and everything is a blur. I just want to wake up and be myself again. But for now, I'm stuck in this never-ending cycle of fear and uncertainty. I've been trying to hold on to reality for what feels like an eternity, but it's slipping through my fingers like sand. Every door I try to open leads to more questions. Every window I look out of shows me a world that's both familiar and yet utterly alien. I'm trapped in a never-ending cycle of fear and paranoia, where the lines between reality and madness are blurred beyond recognition. I see things everywhere now: shadows on the wall, whispers in the wind, eyes watching me from the corner of my room. I try to convince myself it's just my imagination playing tricks on me, but deep down I know better. The world has gone mad and I'm right there with it. I've started to question everything: my own identity, my relationships, even my own sanity. Is anyone really here for me, or is everyone just playing a role? Am I the only one who's aware of this desolate landscape that surrounds us all? The more I try to grasp onto something solid, the more it slips through my fingers like quicksand. I've lost count of the number of times I've stared into the abyss and seen nothing but darkness staring back. Sometimes, I feel like I'm drowning in a sea of uncertainty, unable to find a lifeline to cling to. The world is spinning out of control, and I'm powerless to stop it. I've tried to talk to people about this, but they just look at me with concern and tell me everything will be okay. They don't understand what's happening inside my head. They can't see the world through my eyes, can't feel the weight of the madness bearing down on me. I'm starting to wonder if I'll ever find a way out of this darkness. Maybe I'll be trapped here forever, lost in a world that's both beautiful and terrifying. The thought sends shivers down my spine. What if I'm not even me anymore? What if I've been replaced by something else entirely? I can feel it building, a sense of inevitability that's hard to ignore. It started with small things: a faint hum in the distance, a subtle shift in the air. At first, I thought it was just my imagination playing tricks on me, but as the days went by, the occurrences grew more frequent and more intense. I've seen things moving out of the corner of my eye, shadowy figures darting around the edges of my vision. I've heard whispers in the wind, soft murmurs that seem to come from nowhere and everywhere at the same time. And I've felt it, a presence lurking just beneath the surface, watching me with cold, calculating eyes. I know I'm not alone in feeling this way. There are others out there, people who sense the unease in the air like a living thing. We're all connected now, bound together by some unseen force that's drawing us closer and closer to what? I don't know what's waiting for us at the end of this road, but I have a feeling it's going to be big. The stakes are high, the consequences dire. If we can just work together, if we can just find a way to tap into this energy and harness its power, maybe we'll be able to survive whatever is coming our way. Maybe. I've seen glimpses of what's to come, visions of destruction and chaos, of cities burning and buildings crumbling. I've felt the weight of it, the crushing pressure of an unseen force bearing down on me. And I know that I'm not alone in feeling this way. I'm starting to realize that we're all just pawns in a much larger game. The forces that are converging on us, they're ancient, powerful, and utterly beyond our control. We're just tiny, insignificant specks in an infinite universe, and yet, there's something about us that draws them in. I don't know what the future holds, but I do know one thing: it's going to be a wild ride. I've seen the signs, the twisted symbols etched into the walls, the flickering candles that cast eerie shadows on the floor. It's all so familiar now, like I'm trapped in a never-ending nightmare from which I can't awaken. I've been brought to this place for one reason alone: to participate in the ritual of eternal darkness. The cultists who brought me here have promised me power beyond my wildest dreams, but at what cost? I look around at the other prisoners, their eyes vacant and unseeing as they await their fate. Some are screaming, others are silent, all are resigned to their doom. I try to remember how I got here, but it's a jumbled mess of fragmented memories and half-remembered fears. The only thing that's clear is that I'm not alone. There are others like me, others who have been drawn into this twisted world by the promise of power or the lure of curiosity. I see them now, the High Priestess, her eyes blazing with an otherworldly energy as she prepares for the ritual. She's surrounded by a retinue of acolytes, their faces twisted in cruel smiles as they await the signal to begin. I'm dragged forward, my wrists bound behind my back as I'm forced to participate in this dark rite. The air is thick with incense and the stench of decay as we move deeper into the heart of the temple. The final step approaches, a great, ancient-looking book that lies open on an altar before us. Its pages are filled with symbols and diagrams, pulsing with a malevolent energy that seems to seep from the very walls themselves. I feel my mind begin to unravel, my grip on reality tenuous at best as I'm forced to gaze upon the horrors within those pages. It's like staring into the face of madness itself. And yet, I know that I'll soon be one with it. I take a deep breath, steeling myself for what's to come. This is the moment when I'll unlock the secrets of eternal darkness, when I'll tap into the raw power that lies within this twisted world. It's going to be beautiful and terrifying. I raise my hands, palms upturned as I await the ritual's conclusion. The High Priestess smiles at me now, her eyes blazing with an unholy light as she whispers a single word in my ear. Begin. I nod, feeling the darkness within me stir to life like a living thing. This is it, the moment when I'll surrender myself to eternal darkness and find true power in its depths. I've taken the final step into the abyss, and there's no turning back now. I feel myself being pulled downwards, deeper into the depths of madness and despair. The world above is just a distant memory, a faint echo of a reality that once was. I look around and see nothing but darkness, an endless expanse of shadowy voids that stretch out before me like an eternal chasm. I try to call out for help, but my voice is lost in the emptiness. No one can hear me now. I'm alone, adrift in a sea of nothingness. The further down I fall, the more distorted reality becomes. Time loses all meaning, minutes stretch into hours, hours turn into days, and yet it feels like an eternity since I've known anything but this endless descent. I see things that defy explanation, twisted creatures that writhe and twist in the darkness, their eyes glowing with an otherworldly light. They reach out to me, their fingers grasping for my soul like skeletal hands. I try to resist, but they pull me down deeper still, further into the depths of madness. I feel myself becoming one with the void, my consciousness expanding to encompass the infinite expanse of nothingness. I see glimpses of what lies beyond, a realm of pure chaos and destruction, where laws of physics are mere suggestions and reality itself is twisted into grotesque parodies. I am consumed by a sense of awe and terror as I gaze upon this abyssal realm. It's beautiful and terrible, a symphony of madness that echoes through the chambers of my mind. I know now that I'll never escape this place. I've taken the final step on the path to eternal darkness, and there's no turning back. The only question is, what lies beyond? Is it an eternity of torment and despair, Or can I find some twisted form of liberation in this void? I don't have the strength to care anymore. All that matters now is the endless descent into the heart of madness.